shadows behind the veil. The crimson nebula stretched before them like a wound in space, its swirling gases hiding secrets that had evaded detection for millennia. Captain Vex Korath of the Sci-Fi Exploration Corps pressed his scaled palm against the observation deck's transparent aluminum, watching the cosmic maelstrom dance with hypnotic beauty. "Captain," came the melodic voice of Science Officer Nyx Valdris from behind him. Her bioluminescent patches flickered with excitement, a telltale sign that her analytical mind had discovered something extraordinary. "The energy readings are unlike anything in our databases. There's a gravitational anomaly buried deep within the nebula's core." Vex turned, his reptilian features betraying nothing of the anticipation building within him. After 30 cycles of exploration, he'd learned to temper excitement with caution. "Elaborate, Nyx." The azure-skinned scientist's fingers danced across her holographic interface, projecting a three-dimensional map of the nebula. "Here," she pointed to a swirling vortex of energy. "Temporal distortions are creating a pocket of stable space-time. Something massive is hidden behind these radiation fields, something that doesn't want to be found." Navigator Zane Thorne, barely out of the academy, but possessed of an intuition that bordered on prescient, looked up from his console. His youthful enthusiasm was infectious, though Vex noticed the way the young officer's tentacles twitched with nervous energy. "Captain, if Officer Valdris is correct, we could be looking at pre-contact technology. The energy patterns suggest artificial generation." Security Chief Cale Drayton's gruff voice cut through the growing excitement like a blade. The battle-scarred veteran had seen too many promising discoveries turn deadly. "Or it could be a trap. We've encountered 17 species that use dimensional hiding techniques for military purposes." Vex weighed their words carefully. The Stellar Dawn had been tasked with mapping the Outer Rim territories, searching for new worlds and civilizations. But this felt different, significant in ways that made his scales tingle with anticipation. "Take us closer, Zane," he commanded, "but maintain maximum shields. Cale, I want all defensive systems online." As their ship approached the anomaly, the sensors began registering impossible readings. Nyx's patches flared brighter as she worked, frantically at her console. "Captain, I'm detecting organic compounds, specifically carbon-based life signs that match profiles in our xenobiological database." "Which species?" Vex asked, though something cold was already forming in his stomach. "Human," Nyx whispered, her voice barely audible above the hum of the ship's engines. The bridge fell silent. Humans were one of the youngest spacefaring species, having only achieved interstellar travel within the last few centuries. According to all galactic records, they had never ventured this far into uncharted space. "That's impossible," Cale growled. "Human colonies are restricted to their home sector. They lack the technology for deep space exploration." Zane's readings confirmed what they all feared to believe. "The biosignatures are definitely human, Chief. But there's something else. The settlement patterns suggest they've been here for far longer than human space travel has existed." Vex made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his days. "We're going in. Prepare the shuttle bay, full exploration protocol." The journey through the temporal fields was like navigating through liquid time itself. Reality seemed to bend and stretch around them, and for moments that felt like hours. Vex questioned whether they would emerge at all. Then suddenly, they broke through into clear space. Before them hung a world that shouldn't exist. It was Earth-like in every detail. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in familiar patterns. But the continents were wrong, arranged in configurations that matched no known human world. Cities dotted the landscape, their lights twinkling like earthbound stars, connected by networks of roads and infrastructure that spoke of centuries of development. "By the void," Zane breathed. "It's beautiful." Nyx's instruments were working overtime, collecting data that challenged everything they knew about human expansion. "The atmospheric composition is perfect for human habitation. The cities show advanced but archaic architecture. It's as if human civilization developed along completely different lines." As they descended through the atmosphere, Cale's paranoia proved prescient. Their communications equipment began malfunctioning, filled with whispers in languages that sounded almost familiar, yet utterly alien. The ship's AI, usually reliable to the point of banality, began displaying error messages in scripts that resembled ancient human writing. They landed in what appeared to be a public square in one of the smaller settlements. The architecture was hauntingly beautiful, organic curves blending with geometric precision, creating structures that seemed to grow from the earth itself rather than being built upon it. But it was the silence that unnerved them most. Where is everyone? Zane asked as they emerged from their shuttle, environmental suits sealed against potential contamination. The city around them was clearly inhabited. They could see lights in windows, hear the distant hum of machinery, smell the lingering traces of cooking food. Yet the streets were empty, as if the entire population had simply vanished moments before their arrival. Nix's scanner detected movement in the shadows between buildings. "We're being watched," she announced, her bioluminescent patches dimming, with anxiety. "Multiple contacts, but they're not approaching." Cale drew his weapon, though he kept it lowered. Could be a cultural taboo about greeting strangers. Or they're afraid. They moved deeper into the settlement, their footsteps echoing off buildings that seemed to pulse with their own inner light. The architecture was undeniably human in its proportions and aesthetics, yet incorporated technologies that shouldn't have existed for centuries. Then they saw the first inhabitant. She appeared at the end of a narrow street, a human woman dressed in flowing robes that seemed to shift color with her movements. Her features were classically human, but there was something in her eyes that made Vex's blood run cold. They were too bright, too knowing, as if they contained depths of knowledge that no mortal mind should possess. The woman approached them with movements that were too fluid, too perfect. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that resonated in frequencies their universal translators struggled to process. "Welcome, children of distant stars," she said, her words somehow reaching them in their native languages simultaneously. "We have been waiting for you to find us." The first one spoke of this day in their final hours. Nyx stepped forward, her scientific curiosity overriding her caution. "Who are the first ones? How long have you been here?" The woman's smile was beautiful and terrible. "We are their legacy, born from their dreams and sustained by their memories, but we are not what you would call alive." As she spoke, more figures emerged from the shadows. Men, women, and children, all with the same unnaturally perfect features and those haunting, too bright eyes. They moved with synchronized grace, as if guided by a single consciousness. Kyle's weapon was in his hands now, though he wasn't sure what good it would do. "What are you?" "We are the Echo," the woman replied. And suddenly her voice was coming from all of them at once, a chorus that reverberated through the empty streets. "We are the memory of humanity itself, the dreams of those who came before. And you, distant cousins of the void, have come seeking truths that may destroy you." The settlement around them began to change, walls shifting and flowing like living tissue. The sky darkened despite the sun's position, and stars began to appear. But they were wrong, arranged in patterns that existed nowhere in known space. Vex felt something probing at the edges of his mind, gentle but insistent, like fingers made of thought and memory. Around him, his crew was experiencing the same intrusion. Zayn cried out as visions flashed before his eyes, images of Earth as it had been millennia ago, of humans fleeing through dimensional rifts, of technologies that bent reality itself. "The test begins now," the Echo spoke through 100 voices. "You have found our sanctuary, learned our secret. But can your species be trusted with the truth of humanity's fall? Can you bear witness to the price of transcendence?" The last thing Vex saw before the visions overwhelmed him was the shuttle behind them, its hull crawling with the same organic patterns that decorated the city walls. They were trapped in a living museum of humanity's forgotten past, at the mercy of entities that claimed to be human but were something far more dangerous, something that judged the worthiness of entire species, and found most of them wanting. Whispers of the vanished. The visions came like a flood. Vex found himself standing in a primordial earth, watching the first humans discover fire, while something vast and hungry stirred in the spaces between dimensions. He saw civilizations rise and fall, witnessed the moment when humanity first touched the void between stars and felt it touch them back. The memories weren't his own, yet they burned through his consciousness with the intensity of lived experience. Around him, his crew writhed in similar torment. Nyx's bioluminescent patches strobed erratically as alien memories overwrote her own thoughts. Zane's tentacles wrapped around his head as if trying to physically block the intrusion, while Kale fought against visions that seemed designed to break his warrior spirit. "Stop," Vex managed to gasp, his voice barely audible above the psychic storm. "We came in peace." The echo's laughter rippled through reality itself. "Peace? Your species has never known peace. We see your memories, Vex Korath, the Zephyrian. Empire built on conquest, worlds stripped bare for resources, entire civilizations enslaved or eradicated. The city around them continued its impossible transformation, buildings flowing like liquid while maintaining their structural integrity. The biosynthetic humans watched with those two bright eyes, their expressions shifting between curiosity and something that might have been pity. "Every species believes itself righteous," the echo continued, its voice now emanating from the very air around them. The Krelians thought themselves benevolent as they absorbed other minds into their collective. The Vorthak believed their genetic purification campaigns were acts of mercy. You Zephyrians tell yourselves that expansion brings civilization to primitive worlds. Nyx struggled to her feet, her scientific mind grasping for something concrete amid the chaos. "You're testing us," she realized, her voice strained but determined. "This isn't random torture. You're evaluating our species' moral worth." The woman who had first greeted them stepped forward, her form flickering between flesh and something more ethereal. "The scientist perceives truth through the veil of illusion. Yes, child of distant stars, we judge. As we were judged, as humanity was found wanting." The vision shifted, showing them glimpses of Earth's final days. Not destruction through war or natural disaster, but something far more profound. A transcendence that left the physical world empty and broken. Humans ascending beyond flesh, beyond individual consciousness, merging into something greater than the sum of their parts. The first ones discovered the secret of immortality, the echo explained as images of vast machines and reality-bending technologies flashed before their eyes. But immortality demands sacrifice. To live forever, they had to surrender what made them human. They became us, memory without mortality, consciousness without corporeal limitation. Kyle fought through his own psychological trial, memories of fallen comrades and questionable orders playing on endless loop. And these? He gestured to the biosynthetic beings surrounding them. "What are they?" "Echoes of echoes," came the reply. "Created from genetic memory and sustained by our will. They experience what humans once felt, dream what humans once dreamed, but they are shadows cast by a fire that no longer burns." Zane's eyes suddenly snapped open, filled with a terror that went beyond fear into the realm of existential horror. "You're dying," he whispered. "All of you. The echo is fragmenting." The biosynthetic human's perfect composure cracked for the first time, revealing expressions of profound anguish. "The young one sees clearly," the echo admitted, its multiple voices taking on a note of desperate urgency. "We are memory without new experiences to sustain us. Each passing cycle diminishes us. Soon we will fade entirely, and with us, all trace of humanity's true legacy." The revelation hit the crew like a physical blow. They were witnessing not just a test, but a dying civilization's final act of preservation. "Why us?" Vex asked, understanding beginning to dawn. "Why show this to our species?" "Because you are explorers," the echo replied. "Seekers of truth, gatherers of knowledge. If you prove worthy, you will carry our story to the stars. If not..." The unfinished threat hung in the air like a blade. The trials intensified. Each crew member faced their deepest shames, their species' greatest sins projected with merciless clarity. Vex relived the moment he'd ordered the bombardment of a refugee fleet, justified as military necessity but haunting him with its moral ambiguity. Nix experienced the deaths of countless research subjects sacrificed for scientific advancement. Zine felt the weight of every world his navigation had helped Zephyrian forces conquer. But it was Kyle who surprised them all. The grizzled security chief stepped forward into the heart of the psychic maelstrom, his scarred face set with grim determination. "I've done terrible things," he announced, his voice carrying above the mental chaos. "Killed civilians, followed orders I knew were wrong, watched good soldiers die for corrupt officers' ambitions. But I learned from those mistakes. I chose to be better." The echo paused, its collective attention focusing on the warrior who stood, unbowed beneath the weight of his own sins. "And what makes you different from the billions who have made similar claims?" Kale's smile was sad but genuine. "Because I know I'll fail again. I'm not seeking redemption or forgiveness. I'm just trying to make sure my failures teach something valuable to those who come after." The biosynthetic beings stepped closer, their movements suddenly less synchronized, more individual. For a moment they seemed almost human, flawed, struggling, real. "Honesty without self-deception," the echo mused. "Acceptance of imperfection coupled with determination to improve. Perhaps there is hope for your species after all." The visions began to recede, leaving the crew gasping in the transformed city square. But the echo wasn't finished with them yet. "We offer you a choice," it said, the biosynthetic humans speaking in unison once more. "We can grant you knowledge, beyond imagining, the location of humanity's lost colonies, technologies that could elevate your civilization beyond its current limitations, the secrets of transcendence itself. But knowledge comes with responsibility. Can your species be trusted with such power?" Nix's scientific curiosity warred with hard-won wisdom. "What happened to the others? The species you've tested before us?" The silence that followed was answer enough. The city around them bore subtle scars, blast marks on buildings, the remnants of alien technology partially absorbed into the organic architecture. They were not the first to find this place, but they might be among the last to leave it alive. "Some sought to claim our knowledge by force," the echo explained. "Others proved themselves unworthy through their responses to our trials. A few," here its voice took on an almost wistful quality, "a few chose wisdom over power and departed, with our blessing, carrying only the memory of what they had witnessed." Vex looked at his crew, his friends, his family, in all the ways that mattered. They had been changed by this experience, marked by truths that would follow them for the rest of their lives. But they were still themselves, still capable of choice. "We choose wisdom," he said finally. "We'll carry your story, preserve the memory of humanity's rise and fall. But we won't claim knowledge we haven't earned through our own growth." The echo's response was a sound like wind through vast spaces, approval mixed with something that might have been relief. "Then you are the first in 7 cycles to choose correctly. The knowledge will remain sealed, but the story will live on through your telling." The city began to fade around them, the biosynthetic beings becoming translucent as the echo's hold on reality weakened. But before they disappeared entirely, the woman who had first greeted them approached Vex one final time. "Remember us not, as we became but as we once were," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Remember that we dreamed of stars and dared to reach for infinity. Remember that we loved and laughed and mourned and hoped. Remember that we were human." The stellar dawn materialized around them as if it had never been anything but a ship in normal space. Their instruments showed no trace of the hidden world, no evidence of the temporal anomalies that had concealed humanity's final sanctuary. Only their memories remained as proof of what they had witnessed. As they set course for home, Vex stood once more at the observation deck, watching the crimson nebula recede into the distance. Somewhere within its swirling depths, the echo continued its slow fade into oblivion, guardian of memories that would soon be lost forever. But the story would survive. It would be told in Zephyrian academies and alien universities, shared around campfires on 1,000 worlds. The tale of humanity's transcendence and tragedy would become legend, and through legend a form of immortality more lasting than any technological achievement. In the end, perhaps that was enough. Perhaps being remembered was the only immortality worth having. The stars awaited their return, indifferent and eternal, carrying within their light the echoes of civilizations risen and fallen, and among those echoes the memory of humanity would endure, not as conquerors or transcendent beings, but as dreamers who had dared to touch infinity and paid the ultimate price for their ambition. The stellar dawn disappeared into hyperspace, bearing its crew toward home and the burden of knowledge that would change their civilization forever. Behind them, the crimson nebula continued its ancient dance, guardian of secrets that would remain buried until the universe itself grew cold and dark. Some truths were too dangerous to share, but some stories were too important to forget.